guys can get out your PowerPoint, we'll get started. Okay, we'll get started. Body mechanics. Last week we talked about patient safety. This week we're going to focus more on our safety as healthcare workers. And this will be important for you guys because as you go out to your clinical sites, you may be asked to help move a person or help move them to a stretcher or move them to a gurney or move them up in bed or help someone, whatever. So those are all things that you guys may very well see, and you need to have an idea of how to protect yourself, what muscles to use, how to do these things. Okay, so body mechanics. This is just how we use our body efficiently in such a way that we don't injure ourselves, but when we're lifting, moving objects, pushing them down the hall, etc. Okay, your alignment. You've probably heard this term before if you've ever been to the chiropractor or talked to someone who's a chiropractor. They always talk about alignment. Okay, alignment is just the correct positioning of basically your head, your neck, and your back, and then everything else in proportion to that. So when you think about alignment, okay, you always want to make sure that if you're lifting something, you've got your back and your head and neck straight. Those are specific areas that are weaker in your body and you don't very, very, very easily injure. And I can't tell you guys how important it is that you take these things and really think on them, really focus on practicing them as you lift, even at home or at school or whatever. When you lift a heavy object, use your legs. I'm just telling you guys, a few seconds it takes to do something safely is so worth the years of your life that you might spend in pain if you have an injury. Because typically when you see injuries, back injuries or neck injuries, which typically is what work-related injuries are, they don't ever get better. So people are always dealing with it. Posture, position of the body parts in relation to each other. Good posture equals better muscle development, equals better alignment, less pain, less risk for injury. Ability to move, mobility. These are just terms that you'll hear today. Balance, the ability to maintain a steady position that doesn't tip. And this becomes important. Now, we do these things automatically. Our body, we pick up a heavy object and we balance ourselves holding that heavy object. We do these things automatically, but sometimes we've gotten in habits that are really harmful or not safe ways for us to do things. And so we want to address those. We want to see how can we change those areas. Body support. This is a device that's used to support the body at work. So while it's doing something, it reduces damage when lifting. So for example, a walker, okay, would be an example of a body support. A device that supports some of the body weight so that damage isn't done to other areas that can't hold that much weight. Crutches, like in the picture. Gait belt, okay? This is called a gait belt. Gait is just your walk or steps. If you're talking about somebody's gait, you're talking about their walk, how they move when they walk. And a gait belt is something that can be wrapped around a person, typically their waist, right at their waist, and it's just an object that a person who is assisting them can use to guide, help, move, transfer, etc. It gives them an anchor kind of to hold on to. Okay, techniques that we can employ to do better body mechanics. Use the stronger and larger muscles to perform tasks. Okay, the thing is, when we are moving or lifting, using our body to do any kind of heavy labor, we want to maximize the strength that we have. The more strength, the better we use our strength, the less risk there is for injury. So the best strength in our bodies are those stronger, larger muscles. Any ideas on where those are? Okay. Typically, your larger and stronger muscles are your legs and your arms. Your back muscles and your abs are typically your weaker ones, so you want to use those. Now, I'm not telling you not to work them out. We're not talking about working out. We're talking about moving. You want to use your legs first. Those are the largest muscles in your body. Okay, those are your legs. Now, your glutes are your large muscles too, but working together, those are the muscles that you want to use, not your back, not your belly, because those are areas that actually, those are areas where you can get injuries. Let me turn off the air real quick. Okay, those are areas where typically you do see the injuries in your back and abdomen. So you want to always make sure that you're using your legs to bend and you're keeping that alignment in your back. Okay, so if I'm going to lift something off the floor, and I want you guys get up, and you can get up right now and practice this. Put your book or something on the floor, and I want you guys to practice using your legs and standing up. Using your legs, standing up. Use your legs. We're going to make them burn a little bit. Bending and getting objects is not, and you guys know this, okay? But if you're moving furniture or you're moving a heavy box, use your legs first. Don't bend at the waist, bend at your hips. Okay, lifting. When you're moving an object, try to push or pull it instead of lift. Okay, now sometimes things are ergonomically designed, like this. It's got wheels on it, so it's much easier for me to push. It doesn't weigh nearly as much as it would if I lifted it, right, and tried to move it from there. So push or pull when you can instead of lift, because then the ground takes the brunt of the weight instead of you. Again, we're talking about how do we save our bodies so that they'll last us our whole lifetime. Let's see. Make sure you keep your back straight. Like I said, alignment, knees bent. Okay. Once you stiffen up your legs, if you can kind of feel, once you straighten up your legs, your back is what takes the weight at that point. Keep your weight evenly distributed when you're lifting. Okay? You need a good base of support on your feet. And then keep your feet at shoulder width. So lifting large weights, get help if it feels like it's too heavy. Please, 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 please get help when you need it. It's not something to be prideful about. It's not something to be embarrassed about. If you need help, get help when you need it, because like I said, it's so worth that extra few minutes it takes to ask somebody to help, to get somebody to help, than the next 30 years of your life living in pain. Okay, when you move and you're lifting things, you need to move and lift in a smooth motion. Okay? Move and lift in a smooth motion. If I start jerking, that increases my risk for injury. Now, I know I'm not talking about powerlifting. I know lifting is like lifting weights and stuff. Still, smooth is always better. But, there's whatever. You do whatever your coaches tell you to do. But typically, smooth motion is the safest. When you start doing jerky, like jerking things out of place, you get injured that way. Okay, positioning. Maintain, again, a good posture. Align. My back is going to be aligned if I'm lifting something. I don't want to be twisting. Okay, I want to keep my back straight. Like I said, avoid twisting. So if you're going to give, let's say you've got a heavy object, your notebook or whatever, and you try to give it to the person behind you, okay? For one, you're twisting. When you twist, it weakens your muscles, because your muscles are at their strongest point when they're aligned and they're lined up. So when you twist, it weakens them, increase the risk for injury yet again. Your base of support, okay? Bend your knees, keep your back straight again, spread your feet apart. Probably about the width of your shoulders is where you need to keep your feet. Now, sometimes it's wider, but part of that is for balance, okay? One, it helps you to use your leg muscles. Two, it's for balance, okay? If I'm way out here, I'm more likely to have issues frontwards and backwards. If I've got them too close together, not on balance there either. Okay, keep objects close when you're lifting, pushing, or carrying. Okay, I want to keep it really close to me. If I start pushing out, I'm using my back again. Okay, so same, that goes with wheelchairs. If you guys have to wheel somebody around, and whenever you get to clinicals, you want to keep that wheelchair close to you. Okay, that decreases the pressure on your back. Okay, but think about it. Take a second. I want you, all of you guys, to take a second. Pick up your notebook or backpack or whatever you have with you. I want you to hold it out here. Hold it out in front of you. Excuse me. Hold it out in front of you. Now, hold it up close to you. Now, can you tell a difference in what's more comfortable and what pressure, where the pressure is? Now, pressure's not in my back at all. It's more in my arms. But out here, I can feel it in my back because I'm not using my arms. I'm using my back muscles. Bending. Avoid unnecessary bending and reaching. Raise the bed or the table. Now, most of you guys will be in places where they have the beds. Typically, the controls are up on the bed rail, or they have a little remote looking thing. Raise that bed up. If you have to do a procedure, if you have to do wound care, if you have to go in and do an IV, not that you guys are going to be doing any of this in clinicals, but if you watch the healthcare providers, are these things that they do? I'm not saying that they will, but are they? If I'm going to start an IV on someone and I'm going to be bent over for 5 or 6 minutes starting that IV, hopefully it doesn't take that long, but once I got to get them clean, I got to put the dressing back on, tie it all up, and everything else, grab my trash and everything. I've spent 5 minutes. If I have to do that once an hour every day, and then I do it for the next 30 years, now I'm going to pull that bed up, raise it up so it's comfortable for me. I'm not having to put a whole lot of unnecessary pressure on my back. Okay, when to use body mechanics. Anytime you lift, carry, or move something, anytime you're doing any kind of work, lifting, carrying, moving, pushing, pulling, anything like that. And then any other activities that you're in. Use good body mechanics all the time. It will benefit you, and definitely in the healthcare setting. One thing. The purpose of body mechanics, like I said earlier, maximize strength and to avoid injury. So anything that you're lifting, maybe you're moving furniture, maybe you're mowing yards or whatever, use these techniques in whatever it is that you're doing. A couple other things I want to talk about before I talk about ergonomics. Lifting and moving. Okay, when you're lifting and moving things, make sure that you don't get too hot. We talked about first aid, getting overheated. Make sure you're in shoes that aren't going to allow you to slip and slide all over the place. Okay, safe is the key. Okay, if you drop something or something unexpected happens, more of a chance for injury. Plan ahead of time. Okay, it's not just okay, let's lift. Okay, plan ahead of time. Okay, on the count of 3, we're going to lift from here and we're going to move to that particular place. If you've got a plan, everybody knows where they're going. That's less amount of time you have to spend with that pressure. When you do, I'm going to go back to that. We talked about bending, raising the bed or the table. Make sure whenever you leave the patient's room, you always put it back down. You always want to leave the bed in lowest position if somebody's not in the room. Again, like I said the other day, like I said, but just so that they don't fall. Make sure I've got everything else. Okay. Ergonomics. Ergonomics is the science of fitting the work to the worker. Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but listen to what I'm saying. Okay? If I've got this stapler, hard plastic, okay? It's solid. Well, it's metal, actually. The base of it's metal. Okay, so I've got this, and let's say I've got a hammer in this hand. I don't have a hammer. Okay? I've got a hammer. Pretend this is a hammer. Okay, when you think about it, which one am I going to use to put a nail into the wall? Now we all say, okay, well, you're going to use a hammer. Well, let's think about this. This is metal, okay, just like a hammer would be. I could get the nail into the wall probably with this stapler. Okay, I'm going to have to beat it really hard. It's probably going to hurt my hands because it's all flat underneath and so forth. But a hammer is designed in such a way that the handle is away from the flattened part, right? So that the handle is comfortable. It's made in such a way that it's heavier on one end so that whenever I hit the nail, I don't have to use just my force. It also uses the force of the weight of the head of the hammer. I could use this stapler, but the hammer is much more ergonomically designed. That's perfect idea of using fitting the work to the worker. So the hammer is going to make the worker, that makes my work a lot easier, okay? Instead of me trying to figure out a way to make this do what I want it to do, we've got the tool that is made to do that. Okay? And you'll see things that are ergonomically designed. You'll hear that term. But that's what it means. It's just fitting the work to the worker. Okay, so maybe instead of my desk right here, okay, I've got my filing cabinets back there. Well, if I went to my filing cabinet every 5 minutes, that wouldn't be very useful. I would want to move my filing cabinet over here. That's another example. Okay, we're fitting the work to the worker instead of the worker to the work. Okay, conditions that affect moving, lifting, or transferring. Okay, if you have a client that's obese, it's going to be more difficult. Not something you should do by yourself. Maybe not something you should even do with 2 people. Okay, it just depends on what you're doing and who you think you need. So you may need 4 people to help move instead of just a 2. Fragility. Okay, how weak is the client? Can they help themselves to move at all? Are they so frail that you might break a bone if you try to move them by yourself? If so, you want to get more people so that it's a smoother transition. Amputation. Okay? You always want to keep their arms and legs in mind when you're moving. The bell's going to ring in just a minute, but I'm going to keep going for a couple minutes. You always want to think about their limbs. Where are their legs going to end up? Where are their arms going to go? And if they have an amputation, they may not be able to help as much. Okay? Their balance may be different. Paralysis, extra equipment needs. Maybe you need an actual lift to move them. You'll see, if any of you guys go to any rehabilitation or nursing homes, you will see some lifts. Altered LOC means level of consciousness. So how much do they really understand what's going on, what you're doing for them? If they're completely unconscious, they're just going to be dead weight. So those are things you have to think about. Language barriers. Do they understand what you're about to do? When you give them instructions and how to move or how to help you, do they understand? And then last is hearing or vision loss. Make sure that you communicate your plans with the person that you're actually moving. Okay? We'll talk about range of motion in another video.